Hey everybody, well the wait is finally over. Thrice's new album Horizons East has finally dropped, and we've been waiting 3 years for this album to come. I'm one of the hugest Thrice fans you'll ever meet. I've got an extensive Thrice merch vinyl collection, and I'll probably show that in another video sometime. But my point being is I have really been looking forward to this. Palms to me just didn't cut the mustard, but the Deeper Wells EP absolutely did. I loved that EP. I thought it was incredible, and I really enjoyed that. But Palms had some awesome tracks in there as well. Beyond the Pines obviously is quite a fan favorite amongst people, but the tracks we have heard from Horizons East, Scavengers, Somerset Fire to the Rain, and Robot Soft Exorcism, they showed such variety and really got me hyped for this record. And as you may or may not know, they did say that there is a companion record coming to this in 2022 sometime, Horizons West, because they recorded so much material that they had enough for it. They didn't want to cut anything, so they've got a second record coming next year. Either way, let's get into it. We're going to skip over the songs that you've probably played to death, and I most certainly have played to death. So we're not listening to Scavengers, Somerset Fire to the Rain, or Robot Soft Exorcism. But let's start off with track number 1, The Color of the Sky. Feels like a movie soundtrack. It's got a synthwave vibe about it, doesn't it? Is this a synthwave track?
My first and foremost memory.
Oh.
Staring up and wonder at the wall. It circumscribed the city.
Oh, I love the way he said circumscribed. Oh, this is another Radiohead sounding track. Wow. Massive The Sky is Falling vibes on this one. Listen to the drums, how fantastic they sound. Wow. Cymbals sound a bit muted though. You hear them, they get hit and they stop. You go shh. Oh, that bass is beautiful. Oh, this is so jazzy. I love it.
As the stars begin to fade, I strive to meet the breaking day and breathe.
I love it when Thrice get all experimental and like weird. Yeah. God, I love that little drum break. Oh, this is awesome. Love that. Man, Riley is going off on the drums here. It's very experimental sounding, this track, isn't it? Jazzy and chaotic.
A new horizon with each eager step I take.
Wow, okay. Well, that was the first track on the record, The Color of the Sky. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that. That was how it started off, kind of like it was sounded like a movie soundtrack. Like it sounded like a track that you would hear on a movie about an astronaut going to outer space, and then his rocket ship breaking down, and then he's stuck on another planet. His oxygen's getting low. It's weird how a song can make you conjure up different images like that, but it was very chaotic, wasn't it? It was very jazzy. And I kind of got the impression, just based on Scavengers, Somerset Fire to the Rain, and Robot Soft Exorcism, that this record was going to have a bit of jazz influence to it. This track very much so continues that jazz theme. It had a Radiohead-like, experimental sort of vibe about it. It was chaotic. There was kind of like little sounds in the background. That little synthwave little intro and then little parts throughout the song was really cool. Riley's drumming on this, holy moly. This sounds like this would have been a fun track for Riley to write the drums for and record. I love the production as well. One thing that I found a little bit weird at the start there was the cymbals sounded a bit muted, but it kind of added, it was the vibe of the song wouldn't have lent itself to cymbals that's, had too much reverb on them. So the drums just sounded so raw, like you're in the room with them. That's a phenomenal way to start off this record. You know, it's different, definitely different to the singles that I listen to. And I love it when Thrice get all experimental like this. It's really, really cool. Okay, track number 3, Buried in the Sun. We've skipped Scavengers because I've played that to death, obviously. So have you, let's be honest. With a track like this, track name like this, let's just make an assumption based on the title. It's going to be quintessential Thrice. Oh, I like this already. Listen to that bass tone, wow. Wow. This is massive Frodis vibes. And Refused. This sounds like Frodis and Refused kind of mixed together. My favorite so far already on this record. You know what? This even has a, weirdly enough, I'm thinking, it kind of has a, it reminds me of Muse a little bit as well. Strange. Alright, where are we going? Oh, that's huge. Love those distorted vocals from Dustin. They sound so badass. Wow, gang vocals. Oh, wow. Okay, well that was track 3, Buried in the Sun. And I'm just saying it right here, this is my favorite on the record so far. I like Scavengers when it first dropped, and I like the other singles. But Buried in the Sun just ticks all the right boxes for me. You know, it was kind of, I loved how the drums were kind of like, it was at this little fill type drum groove that was playing through all the way. And this song when I, like at the start, I was like, this sounds like Frodis, you know, / Refused. It kind of had that kind of distorted sort of bass tone, the punky type aggression in the vocals with the distortion. It kind of had felt like a political song. I don't know what the lyrics were. I wasn't really listening to the lyrics too much, but it kind of had that early 2000s, you know, post-punk sort of vibe. Just even on the production, just the song as a whole. I really like that. Buried in the Sun, what an awesome track. Absolutely awesome track. And Riley was a little bit more restrained on that one this time. Yeah. All right, track 4, Northern Lights. Let's make another guess based on the song title. This will kind of be something a little bit more anthemic. Whatever that means. Oh, okay. Teppy on the keys. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Dustin's vocals sound a lot higher in this, not as gravelly. So jazzy, I love this. Complete with the jazz piano, like sounding chords in there. China splash. Was not expecting the China. Key change. Tempo change. Is it slowing down or am I just imagining that? A guitar solo would absolutely rip in this song. Oh, that's sick. That little synth underneath there, you can just hear it. Oh, this is an earworm, this song. Okay, that was track number 4, Northern Lights. Thrice throwing curveballs left, right, and center. We started off with the synthwave inspired stuff, and you got like the straight, Scavengers, and then Buried in the Sun, which kind of had that early 2000s post-punk vibe. Now, Northern Lights. Where did this song come from? Like this, it kind of sounded. There's this band called the Reign of Kindo. Super awesome band. I haven't listened to them in quite a few years actually, but this actually reminded me of. I was like, oh yeah, I remember Reign of Kindo, which were kind of like a jazzy sounding band that actually sounded kind of similar to this track. This song, reminded me of them greatly, and I really did enjoy listening to those guys years ago. Incredible song. I mean, it's not my favorite. Like, kind of felt a bit preachy in parts. Like the world as one, holding hands or something like that. Lyrically, not the strongest track, I don't feel so far. But I love the jazziness of it. And not only that, but when Riley came in with the China, splashes over the top there. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of jazz or any music kind of like this, but when's the last time you heard like, jazzy lounge music with China splashes over the top like that? That's just so cool. I love that. Love that. All right, track number 6, Still Life. I'm not going to make an assumption about what the song is based on the title. We're just going to play it. But 5 minutes and 14 seconds, that's a big track. Sounds like In Exile. Oh. It's getting all jazzy up in here again already. This record is just so much jazz happening in this. Have they just been listening to a lot of jazz or something? Bass tones on point as usual.
On the mantelpiece, there's a scrap of leather.
Interesting chord choices in this too.
Have remembered truth or lie. And there's a photograph.
It has an In Exile vibe about it, but not completely. There's something different about it. Oh, nice. God, I love the heaviness of those chords. Oh, nice little feedback in there. It kind of has a 90s sort of alternative rock metal vibe about it. Oh, that is Honey Badger just there. I think he is building into something. This reminds me of that 90s song by Marcy Playground, that Sex and Candy song. I don't know why. But I smell sex and candy. Oh, hello. Oh, it's getting lower. They're so good at doing like little awesome musical interludes like this. Oh, that's filthy. I like that. Reminds me of the end of Beggars, where it just gets all filthy and jazzy. How groovy is that bass line underneath that? Doom, 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 doom. Oh, wow. Okay, well that was track 6, Still Life. I loved that. It was, to me, that kind of is very reminiscent of Beggars and even, I guess, Major Minor in a way. You know, those kind of like long sort of musical breaks and interlude parts that they do. It actually kind of reminded me, it sounded like the track Beggars and In Exile actually as well. Kind of like a mixture between the two, but not exactly the same. That song had some really interesting chord choices here. I'm not really well versed in, you know, musical theory or anything like that, but the chords to me just kind of, they didn't sound like normal chords being played over the top, but it was kind of like this weird kind of off-kilter quirkiness that kind of drew my attention in, and it was kind of like, you know, this is really interesting from an oral perspective. You know, you can just, there's so much going on that it kind of drew you in by its weirdness. How awesome was Ed's bass line underneath that song? You know, the bass was driving this song. That doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, doo, doo-doo. So catchy, and I loved how, you know, it just kind of stayed that way over the top. The drums largely stayed the same, and you know, the guitar was just doing all its kind of weird stuff over the top. Presumably Teppy was doing his weird stuff over the top there. Awesome track. Awesome track. All right, track number 7, The Dreamer. Song title like this, let's just make let's have a hunch it's a moderately heavy song. Maybe, yeah, let's just listen. I don't know. Okay, what's heavy so far? Hey, little interesting guitar lead part there. Oh, nice. What? Has like a slam poetry vibe about it. I dig it. I'm picturing Dustin at a podium on a stage in like a small club with a notepad saying this. Pretty safe chorus so far. Kind of love that poetry vibe I'm getting from that. Kind of like he's preaching it almost. Like a Tom Waits style sort of passionately talking, I guess. Oh, nice little break here. They're on their time signature stuff again. That's an interesting progression there too, isn't it? The song's a little bit repetitive, but still cool. Sounds like a track that would have been on major minor to me. You could have put this on there and it wouldn't have sounded out of place at all. Okay, well that was track number 7, The Dreamer. Gonna be honest, this is probably the first track on the record so far where I'm like, oh, I could take it or leave it. I don't know, it kind of felt a bit, I felt like a filler track to me, this song. When compared to the other tracks that we've already listened to so far, and even the singles that I've heard. I don't know, it just kind of felt a little bit safe to me. Not bad, it had some cool stuff going on there, little progressions on the guitar and whatnot again. I really did like sort of the, you know, the slam poetry vibe I was getting from Dustin on the delivery of some of those vocals. I think where it falls flat for me is the chorus. I know the chorus just felt a little uninspired to me. Very, very major minor sounding on the chorus. And major minor wasn't my favorite record. It had some awesome tracks, but yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite so far, but you know, it's not terrible at all. All right, second last track on the album, track number 9, Dandelion Wine. When I saw this track on the track list originally, I was like, it piqued my interest just on the song title. You know, a song title it's like a good book title, it can just get me. So let's see if this one lives up to the song title. Wow. We are seriously jazzing it up on this one, aren't we? And the chords, once again, very interesting.
I scope through the skeleton trees.
I can picture this in a jazz club. Smoke kind of around, you know, Dustin with a glass of scotch in his hand. Dimly lit, sort of, you know, just save for a few lights. Even the lyrics just feel like that, you know, typical Dustin sort of convoluted open to interpretation style. Love it. Oh, that's awesome. Just a half a spoonful and everything's fine. God, I love those drums. I'm not a huge jazz guy, but I do love jazz drums. Riley is such an underrated, you know, drummer. He can do so much stuff. It's incredible. What is Dandelion Wine? I'm gonna have to look that up if it's even a thing. Oh, this sounds like the end of Beggars. The song, not the album. Oh, I love that. Oh! We got Shouty Dustin back. I love Shouty Dustin. God, this is heavy. This is the heaviest track on the album so far. Wow. This song is a trip. What a ride. Well, that was track number 9, Dandelion Wine. And straight off the bat, that just immediately takes me back to the Beggars album and the title track Beggars, which is, you know, one of my favorite Thrice tracks. Obviously, the channel name is called Beggars, inspired by the Thrice track. But this kind of, to me, it kind of felt like a follow-up to Beggars in a way. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but it had a jazziness about it, jazzy vibe about it. I was picturing Dustin in a jazz club, you know, half that song, you know, dimly lit, smoke everywhere, a glass of scotch. Such an awesome image. And then, you know, it just starts exploding and getting really heavy. There was even some shouting in there from Dustin. Just incredible. I really enjoyed that song. You know, if there's one thing that Thrice is really good at, it's kind of building a song up and then exploding, you know, like this release of energy. They're just so good at it. Really, really good at it, as we've heard in other songs in the past and songs on this album. That's easily one of my favorites on the album. You can hear that, once again, you know, the weird kind of jazz vibe and the different chords and stuff like that. Really cool, different vibe to anything they've put out in such a long time. All right, track number 10 and the last track on the album, Unitive / East. You never know with Thrice on their closing tracks if it's going to be slow, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be both. You just don't know. Dramatic piano. Sounds like a movie soundtrack again. Like The Color of the Sky, actually. I'm getting space movie vibes again for some reason. Very obscure sounding piano. It's kind of unsettling, but interesting as well. This totally needs to be in a space movie or documentary or something. Wow. It's just getting even like crazier. What's going on? Oh, this is intense. What is going on here? Sounds like me, like trying to pretend to play the piano, just going. Except he's actually playing the piano. There's some semblance of a song forming now, by the sounds of it. I think. It kind of sounds like an acid trip or something, doesn't it? There's a lot going on. This would be a funny one to play live, seeing people like, do I headbang to this? Do I just kind of like smile and, you know, sway from side to side? Oh, this is weird, hey. This is weird, but I can't stop listening. It's just... It's the kind of weird that draws you in. Wow. This is a weird song. It's not even a song, really. It's kind of like a closing instrumental with, weird vocals over the top. I'm afraid to stop it because it's still going just in case something like explodes out in the last minute or something, but I don't think it's going to. Yeah, weird. This is throwing me off, this one. Well, that was track 10, Unitive East. Was it? I don't know. I'm lost. That's kind of muddled my brain, that song. There was a lot going on in that, wasn't it? It was like an instrumental bookend of the song. And it kind of felt like it actually joined up with Color of the Sky in a way. Remember Color of the Sky? I was saying it kind of sounded like, a space movie, basically. That had space movie vibes about it. And I was actually picturing someone in an astronaut suit, their quarter detached, and they're just kind of like slowly kind of spiraling and, fading into the ether, so to speak. Like that space movie, I can't remember the name of it. All right, so that was the whole entire Horizons East album, minus the tracks that obviously all of us have heard and played to death. Now let's talk about it because clearly this is Thrice's most different album in such a long time. This is definitely nothing like Palms and definitely nothing like To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere. And definitely nothing like Deeper Wells EP either. And in some aspects, it's not even the same as the albums that came before it. I mean, I'm hearing glimpses of Alchemy Index in there. I'm hearing glimpses of Beggars, Major Minor. But this is probably Thrice's most creative and diverse work yet. Clearly they've self-produced this thing, and they've taken some creative liberties to, put something out that's different, that, people probably weren't expecting. And I can actually see on the surface that some Thrice fans will have a problem with this album. It won't be their favorite. For some people, this will be, worse than Palms for them. A lot of people did like Palms. I liked Palms, some of the tracks anyway. But in terms of album as a whole, like this one is probably not as accessible as some of their other albums. If you came into Thrice through To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere, for example, this album is probably going to be a massive detour for you if you're not really familiar with Thrice's back catalogue. But if you're familiar with Major Minor and Beggars and Alchemy Index, then this isn't going to be nearly as much of a shock as if you came in later in Thrice's career, especially, when they went down that more, I guess, generic rock sounding path for a while there. But I really dug this. This has, early 2000s, post-punk sort of vibes about it. I'm thinking Throtus, I'm thinking Refused. All those bands around that time where the bass was really prominent, awesome guitar riffs, experimentation on the vocals, trying out new ways of enunciating. I thought it was really cool to hear Dustin doing stuff that kind of sounded like slam poetry, shouting. We heard Dustin without the gravel in his voice in some of those tracks. You could hear in a couple of those tracks he was singing, but the gravel wasn't there, that grit that we've come to hear from Dustin of the last few albums. It actually disappeared. So it kind of goes to show that he does play into the graveliness of his voice, but he also isn't beholden to it. He is capable of still singing and having a higher sort of pitched voice that might be more reminiscent of, the earlier Thrice material. But my favorite thing about this album that stands out, and it stood out on those singles, is the production. The drums just sound so raw and natural, which is a huge thing with modern music because a lot of modern drums are, sample replaced and triggers and just heavily overproduced to the point where they just sound generic. But this record does not sound like a modern record to me. It easily sounds like something that could have been released in 2001 by your favorite post-punk band. And, if you were into music back then like that, this would have been huge if Thrice dropped this back then. These days might be a little bit trickier because they could have given people the taste for the newer sound they experimented with, especially in Palms. I mean, Palms is completely different to this. To me, I much prefer this over Palms. It is one of those albums that will take a few listens to grow on you. But I guarantee, you know, like when first time you probably heard some of the other Thrice stuff, you know, it took a few listens to really get into. Palms for me was like that. At first, I was kind of like, oh, you know, this album as a whole, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Then I listened to it a few more times, and quite a few of the songs grew on me. Even Just Breathe, which annoyed me the first few times I heard it. The highlight for me on this album is definitely Buried in the Sun. That was just a huge track. The singles they released, Summer Set Fire to the Rain, Scavengers, and Robot Soft Exorcism, those are awesome tracks as well. But the album as a whole, just a fantastic album. Dandelion Wine is probably another favorite of mine as well. The two of the non-single releases, Buried in the Sun and Dandelion Wine, definitely favorites. That last track on the album, the Unitive / East track, that was a weird closing track. That kind of messed with my head a little bit because I didn't really know how to respond to that. Like, I don't know, it was bizarre. But I felt like it joined up with Color of the Sky in some way. I'll probably listen to them together and drag them in a playlist to see how they sync up. But it definitely felt like an album closing track. It was chaotic with that piano sort of going all over the place. It, you know, sounded like random piano playing, but I'm sure every note had a place. You know, Teppy is a phenomenal keyboardist. But as a whole, this album is different, and I liked it. I really did like it. I love hearing him take a step in a more experimental direction. The thing I found most surprising about this actually was how jazzy this album felt. You know, there was massive jazz influences on this time around. I don't know if Teppy and the guys have been listening to a bit of jazz or it just naturally came out that way, but it was really jazzy. And as I said, I'm not a big jazz guy, but I do appreciate the musicianship of good jazz. And some jazz I can get into, but I'm just not huge into it. This is probably as accessible as jazz will be to me, with Thrice doing an interpretation of it through their brand of music. But yeah, as a whole, it's a solid record. It is definitely a solid record. Is it a 5 out of 5? I wouldn't say it's a 5 out of 5. I'd say this is a solid 4 out of 5. I'm going to give it a grade. I mean, I hate rating stuff with numbers and whatnot. But yeah, this is a solid 4 out of 5. It's a great album. I like it better than Palms, and really, you know, just bettering your last album is really all you can expect from a band, you know, especially your favorite band. The exciting thing is we know they've got another album coming, so whether or not it is similar vibe to this or they're going to go in a completely different direction, and maybe if you liked Palms or To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere, they've got something for you maybe on the next album. We can speculate, but we don't know. All we know is they wrote a whole bunch of songs. They didn't want to throw any out, so they've got another album in the wings for us. So yeah, we're going to end this video here, but I mean, as a whole, awesome production, awesome vibe, awesome songwriting, and a really nice experiment from the guys. It feels very experimental, but you know, in that true Thrice fashion, you know, they always have something for everyone on a record to like. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of this album, considering how different it was. If you're a long-term Thrice fan, what you felt about it. And if you made it to the end of this video, as always, I always appreciate your time. And until next time.